If you were a 90s kid, you probably grew up watching a lot of teen horror films. They're now lost in the dusty corners of your memory, but they were the stuff of nightmares back in the day. These films would lift you out of the couch and take you to a bustling small town or a hip high school where you would fight monsters and maniacs with your own magic. The fears, the screams, the blood spilling onto the camera, it all felt real. As the main characters faced evil head-on, you would sit tight, biting your nails or clenching your fists. So today, let's take a trip down memory lane as we explore 12 underseen teen horror movies from the 90s. Brace up because you're in for spine-chilling action and blood-curdling horror. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Campfire Tales, 1997. If there's one thing we learnt from teen horror accidents, it's that a bunch of unruly kids shouldn't be given a driving license. Or a car, for that matter. Cliff and his friends Lauren, Alex, and Eric have an accident while recklessly speeding down a deserted road in the middle of the night. As they're stranded in the woods in the middle of nowhere, they take turns to tell ghost stories. Each of these micro-stories is a different kind of horror that keeps the group on their toes. Take, for example, the story People Can Lick Too. It's a creepy name, I agree, and the story gets creepier. Here, Amanda and Jessica are internet besties. She had told Jessica that she's home alone, without having any idea that Jessica is actually a complete psycho. In another story, The Honeymoon, we have a young couple traveling to Las Vegas, facing dangerous creatures that attack people on full moon nights. Then there's The Locket, where biker Scott learns a horrifying truth about a family he's currently living with. The film basically comprises 3 short segments, which may seem disconnected at first, but all these stories tie together at the end, and I promise you it'll absolutely blow your mind. 2 of the stories even featured on the Canadian anthology cartoon Freaky Stories from 1997, which premiered the same year as Campfire Tales. Starring James Marsden, Christine Taylor, Amy Smart, and Ron Livingston, the film has a lot of familiar faces for the 90s teens who grew up watching TV. Is it a bit campy? Sure. But back in the day, the film was one of its kind, leaving a cult status amongst fans of teen horror. Even today, it's an amazing treat to watch young teens narrating urban legends with a modern twist. Brain Scan, 1994. High school student Michael Bauer is quite a teenage misfit who has a penchant for horror films and video games. So when he comes across a newly released game called Brain Scan, he simply cannot hold himself back. As he dives deep into the game, Michael watches a gruesome murder taking place, only to realize that the murder happened for real and he is the killer. Next in line is his dream girl Kimberly, and the fight is between his troubled psyche and his true love for the girl. Edward Furlong, playing the role of Michael Bauer, brings real-life fears on screen. One of the iconic moments is when Michael finds his best friend Kyle's bloody necklace in the freezer. As the unforgiving realization dawns upon him, little does he know that the actual horror has just begun. It's quite surprising that director John Flynn initially didn't really get along with Edward Furlong, who was 15 at the time. Flynn admits that Eddie could barely act, and every morning he had to be slapped until he woke up. We're not a fan of knocking people either, but that's quite something. But T. Ryder Smith, playing the character of the Trickster, puts up the best performance in the film. He gets into Michael's head and makes him do things he would regret. Let's not forget that CGI wasn't a big thing back then, so the makeup and the visual effects are pretty decent, I'd say. The lighting could be improved, but the story makes up for every other flaw. Fast-paced and riveting, the film never has a single dull moment. As a viewer, you get sucked into Michael's limbo of madness as he spirals into the disturbing world of the video game. The lines between reality and fantasy are blurred, and the subconscious begins to play tricks on the player. Brain Scan isn't for the weak. Only the most resilient would survive this virtual dystopia that preys upon the young and the vulnerable. The Faculty, 1998. Things were going pretty fine at Harrington High, a small-town school in Ohio, until an alien infection began to spread like wildfire. It all started when the teachers began to behave pretty sus, and 2 of them strangled Nurse Harper. High school teens Casey and Delilah were the only 2 to witness this murder, and only 4 others seemed to be suspicious of this new development. To their utmost horror, Nurse Harper appears to be alive, but she has started behaving like the other teachers. The chemistry teacher trailer not only confirms the alien invasion theory, but also suggests a way to get out of this mess. The kids will have to kill the infected humans and get their alien queen before the epidemic takes over the whole world. Now, this is one of Robert Rodriguez's masterpieces that you can truly enjoy when you binge watch this grindhouse trilogy. You start with From Dusk Till Dawn and end with Planet Terror. Each scene is nothing short of a visual treat, mixing CGI with traditional monster mayhem. The film also features the famous drug test scene, which is a homage to the blood test in The Thing from 1982. You also get to see Josh Hartnett and Elijah Wood just before their fame would kick off. In fact, it was on the set of this film that Harry J. Knowles got a whiff of Peter Jackson adapting The Lord of the Rings into a film series. Even though Jackson was mostly casting British actors for his film, Knowles made sure that Elijah Wood videotaped his own audition, even though he had never read the books. As we know, the rest is history. Coming back to the film, it's a stark reminder of the chaos that unfurls when teachers can no longer be trusted to take care of kids, and these teenagers have to step up and save humanity from complete destruction. Idle Hands, 1999. At 17, Anton Tobias goes about smoking pot, watching TV, and simping after a punk rock girl who lives just across the street. He really can't complain about his life until one fine morning he wakes up to find both of his parents turned into headless Halloween decor. He realizes that his right hand has a murderous mind of its own. After his parents and his best friends Mick and Nub, its next target is Molly from across the street. Thirsty for blood, his possessed hand is hell-bent on wreaking havoc across town. His best friends, who are now dead, come back from the grave to help him. They must hurry up before Anton's hand gets a hold of Molly on prom night. If it does, her soul is bound to go to hell and unleash greater evils from there. One thing that the film has got spot on is the different locales where the film was shot. Fans of the film Halloween from 1978 would know that Idle Hands is set in the same neighborhood 20 years later. In fact, the school gym where the Halloween dance is held was also shown in the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie and Jawbreaker from 1999. Idle Hands has everything that a good teen horror flick needs. The characters are too stupid to realize the full extent of their stupidity until it's too late. The main character is a big-time screw-up who comes with an inbuilt killing machine that everyone's trying to fight and failing at it. Then there's the punk-crazed, horny girl that the main guy needs to save in order to save the town. It's a brilliant Halloween horror fest with shocks and creeps and gore and deaths, with a tinge of laughter sprinkled here and there. Disturbing Behavior, 1998. Teenager Steve Clark hasn't found his tribe yet. His family has relocated, and he's enrolled in a local high school in the coastal town of Cradle Bay. Here, he finds all kinds of people: punkers, nerds, hot rodders, jocks. He technically looks like the jocks, with their matching varsity jackets, perfect haircuts, politically correct actions, and charity work that would make any American parent proud. It's only when he befriends Gavin and Rachel he finds out why the jocks and their perfection is a huge problem for the town. With cover-up murders, killers in the guise of perfect teenagers, and the town's own mysterious methods of transforming unruly teens into abiding citizens, our hero is about to find out why their behavior is truly disturbing. With his friends, he is yet to uncover the dirty secrets of the school. A story of love and paranoia, the film takes up adult themes of mystery and dystopia, which keeps you glued to the screen. Shots like the lunchroom freak roll call scene make it a teenage horror that you just cannot miss. If you're wondering if the film is basically a rehash of Stepford Wives, trust me, it is. Director David Nutter gives the story a teenage revamp and presents it as an original flick. Then you see X-Men star James Marsden stealing the show as Steve Clark. I think the reason it's so underappreciated is because the film was heavily edited. This obviously made the takes look very incoherent when pieced together as a complete movie. In fact, there was an unreleased director's cut, which actually performed much better than the theatrical version. The film received great praise when Nutter showed the original uncut version to the horror film journalists at Fangoria magazine, but MGM wouldn't let Nutter release it. So here we are. Cherry Falls, 2000. Cherry Falls is a small town in Virginia where high school teenage virgins are killed off in what looks like a gore fest. The culprit? A long-haired killer clad completely in black. While the town sheriff is investigating the matter, his daughter Jody Markham embarks on a journey of her own to unmask the killer. She is a virgin teenager herself, and that makes her even more juicy as a target for the killer. As she delves deep, she discovers devastating truths about people she thought she could trust. Will she she be the mystery crime solver, or will she be another victim for the ruthless murderer? Only time will tell. The film shows what happens when dark comedy meets bloodbath. The age-old cliché of the virgin survivor is rendered a new twist in this teen horror by Ken Selden, who actually wrote the story in the spirit of Scream. Never for a moment will you find the story tedious or the cinematography boring, and I think that's the director's genius. Rumor has it that Michael Biehn wasn't actually interested in the movie at first. He had discarded it as another slasher movie after reading barely 15 pages of the script. But then the film's satirical approach to a conventional horror story made him change his mind. The film's received a fair share of negative reviews, which is a startling reminder that dark comedy isn't everyone's cup of tea. Mirror, Mirror, 1990. Megan Gordon is a goth teen who moves from Los Angeles to Iowa with her widowed mother, Susan. The new residence originally belonged to the Weatherford family, whose belongings were mostly auctioned by Emmeline. Only an antique mirror was left behind in a quiet corner of Megan's bedroom, and she's totally in love with it. Back in school, Megan is bullied by her classmates, and it's only Nikki Chandler who welcomes her, and they become besties. Nikki is running for class president and is contested by a mean girl named Charlene Kane. Meanwhile, Megan has a crush on Charlene's boyfriend, Jeff, and if that wasn't complicated enough, Megan soon becomes possessed by the mirror. This sets off a whole spree of crime that affects the people around Megan. Something needs to be done before it's too late, so Emmeline, the auctioneer in charge of the house, comes to the rescue. Digging up old newspapers, she uncovers a grotesque secret about the Weatherfords' demonic mirror. It's said that the original title of the film was The Black Glass, and I kinda like that. The first half of the film is a pretty average American teen drama. In the second half, the horror kicks in, especially with the death scenes and the iconic bathtub drowning scene. Oddly enough, about 60% of the cast is just women, so you see a lot of eye candies roaming around the high school corridors. The whole cast does a great job, with Rainbow Harvest stepping up from being a Winona Ryder wannabe from Beetlejuice to an actual wicked villain. To balance her evil, we have Kristen Dattilo with her unbearable sweetness almost to a fault. But oh god, Charlie Spradling is absolutely gorgeous with her stunning looks and spoilt bitchy acting. Dr. Giggles, 1992. Up next, we have Dr. Giggles, a slasher horror that's based on childhood trauma. Back in 1957, Evan Rendell watches his father getting lynched by a group of unruly patients. Papa Rendell was actually trying to find a replacement for his sick wife's heart, and that didn't go quite well. Fast forward to 35 years later, Evan has chosen to follow in his father's footsteps and rip people's hearts out. As he escapes from an asylum, killing anyone and everyone on the way, his hideous giggle rings through the ears. Evan rushes back to his childhood home where he retrieves his dad's files and plans to finish what his dad had started. He will stop at nothing, except the 19-year-old Jennifer Campbell, who wears a heart monitor. He soon realizes that she has the same heart condition that his mother did. Being the total nutjob he is, Evan makes her his ultimate target. The film's based on a comic book series called Dr. Giggles by Dark Horse Comics, and director Manny Cotto did a great job creating a horror flick that would steal our sleep when we were kids. Even as an adult, you'll love the movie as Larry Drake terrifies the living hell out of you with his killing frenzy. The stunning Holly Marie Combs plays the perfect victim. She'll make sure you never have a single dull moment. The puns and jokes land right, and the gore fest never feels cringe even for a moment. It's actually funny that the film features on the lists of unintentionally funny movies, even though it was intended to be funny. So if you're in the mood for some good old comedy horror, you know what to watch. Popcorn, 1991. As students of film studies, Toby, Bud, Leon, Joni, Tina, Cheryl, and Maggie devise a plan to fund their own films. With the help of their professor, Mr. Davis, they plan to conduct a horror movie marathon festival. True to its theme, an old and abandoned theater was chosen. And suddenly, Dr. Minnison arrives out of the blue. He offers films and special effects which they can use in their event. Little did they know that the horrors on screen would soon turn into off-screen horror where real lives would be at stake. Amongst all the movies that are shown, there was an experimental film made by Lanyard Gates, a deranged filmmaker who randomly starts killing people from the audience. Then there's Maggie, who experiences recurrent nightmares about a girl called Sarah, leaving her mother completely baffled. The film is extremely disturbing for her, and Maggie feels really upset seeing her crush Mark with another girl, Joy. Along with some of the other students, Mr. Davis, the professor, is killed. Who is this crazy serial killer, a master of disguise, who's lurking in the shadows? What I really love about the 90s is that the era saw a number of postmodern works which deconstructed the whole genre of horror and thriller. Directors were experimenting with structure and content, giving fans of horror and film something out of the ordinary. Naturally, the film flopped at the box office. What else do you expect? Sometimes people just want a simple storyline with age-old cliches and to enjoy a classic bucket of popcorn. The Frighteners, 1996. Frank Bannister met with a tragic car accident where he lost his wife, but it came with the newfound knowledge that he can talk to the dead. Like most modern superhero origin stories, Frank begins to use his gift to con people. He would channel these psychic powers into people who would be forced to exorcise their homes. Things were going pretty fine for a while until an evil demonic spirit called the Reaper appeared out of thin air. His victims are not only the living, but the dead as well. With his unwitting superpowers, Frank is the only person standing who can save the world of the living, as well as the dead, from falling prey to the brutal hands of the Reaper. We just have to give it to the film for trying some of the most complex visual effects ever attempted until that time. Peter Jackson used CGI, scale models, prosthetic makeup, practical effects, and whatnot. All that was done over a period of 18 months. The scenes with ghosts and humans had to be shot at least twice, once normally and then with the ghost on the blue screen. Shooting in New Zealand did pay off because the visuals are breathtaking. I really love how unpredictable the general mood is throughout the film. One moment, it's a humorous take, and the very next moment, it's complete carnage. Horror fan lovers, you're in for a ride watching these young actors play some really complex characters. The Rage, Carrie 2, 1999. Rachel Lang lost her only friend to suicide, and now she feels like an outsider. It's only Jesse Ryan who reaches out to her, but then even Jesse is a part of the popular kids who bully outsiders like Rachel. What most people don't know is that Rachel has the power of telekinesis, which makes her stand out from the rest. She hasn't really come to terms with her unwanted yet awesome powers, and the only person who can really help Rachel is Sue Snell, the lone survivor of Carrie White's rampage 2 decades ago. Rachel learns to trust people, slow but steady. Meanwhile, a terrible trap is laid out for her, which is a very risky business, because we don't want to make her angry now, do we? While it's a family drama about a hot goth chick, it's also a young adult horror with jocks and backstabbers finally getting what they deserve. Rachel evokes a mixed bag of emotions. You feel her pain, and at the same time, you begin to cheer for the little evil that lies inside her. To me, the highlight of the movie was Rachel shattering the glass doors using her telekinetic powers during the climax. The whole bloodbath party sequence is like a cherry on the cake for action lovers. It's a Stephen King story after all. In fact, it took Emily Bergel 3 attempts to get the shot done. Real glass was used, and she would initially flinch and clench her teeth, which really wouldn't go very well with Rachel's character development. Emily really went all in with that scene, receiving multiple injuries in her arms, legs, and backside. As a sequel, I think the film fared pretty well and deserves more credit than it is given. Fear, 1996. At 16, Nicole Walker just wants to have fun, and she has her head filled with ideas of a Prince Charming. So when she meets the older baddie David at a party, she's head over heels in love with him. At first glance, everything seems fine. They have sex, and even her family likes him. But as soon as they become official, David begins to show his true colors. He's jealous and insecure, and even beats up Nicole's friend for hugging her after school. Naturally, Nicole is mad and heartbroken. She doesn't want to forgive David, but he manages to convince her to give him another chance. But things again take a dirty turn when Nicole's best friend Margot gets involved, and this time, Nicole has had enough. But David isn't taking chances this time. He and his friends barge into her family home and try to kidnap her. Only time will tell if he's going to get hold of Nicole, or if her family will put up resistance against his sick obsession for the girl. It's a simple story with stereotypical characters, with a whole lot of fear blended into a thriller. The whole film is a teenage emotional roller coaster. The plot did not land well with most fans because the premise seemed unrealistic to most. But if you're an American teen from the 90s, you probably know that one couple that was completely messed up. It's always a little blonde daddy's girl who isn't allowed to have boyfriends, is blinded by love, and falls for the wrong guy. None but Mark Wahlberg could have played the role of this wrong guy so well. Director James Foley was actually eyeing Leonardo DiCaprio for the character of David, but the actor felt that he wouldn't be a good fit for the role. That's weird, because Nicole hadn't even turned 25 yet. Marvelous verdict. The 90s was a glorious decade for lovers of horror, madness, and the supernatural. Experiments were done with genres, tropes, and CGI, which would completely revolutionize cinema and storytelling. As people expected more, actors and directors tried to live up to the expectations of the masses. A huge number of films were released, and each one was unique in its own right. Even when films used existing prototypes, they continued to win the hearts of fans. Today, teen horrors are all the rage, with movies making multi-million dollars at the box office. They're raunchy, bold, cocky, and even campy at times. The best part about these films is that they take you down memory lane. They make you feel like a giddy 16-year-old who's ready to take on whatever monster and mystery comes their way. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.